The last 48 hours have been extremely difficult for the Fargo area to process as we are all grieving the death of 23-year-old Fargo police officer Jake Willeen. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Zoe Jones. We've been trying to understand what led to Officer Willeen's death and if there was a motive surrounding the incident. This afternoon, we sat down with some individuals who lived just down the hall from the man behind Friday's violence.
That's right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Reed Gregory. This afternoon, I got the chance to sit down with two individuals who live just adjacent to where the gunman, who we now know as 37-year-old Muhammad Barakat, lived. We spoke to them about their encounters with the gunman throughout their time in their complex, as well as what their evacuation process was like. This is an exclusive interview you'll only see here on Valley News Live. You mentioned to us that living near him was like living next to a monster. Can you kind of explain?
Yeah, you know, it didn't feel right. He was very didn't look up to you, really didn't really make much eye contact. It was kind of unusual.
I know every time I had an encounter with him, he was very timid, standoffish. He didn't want to be around you, and of course that made you not want to be around him.
Keith Gosney and Daniel Ringwelski have lived in the Bluemont apartment complex for coming up on around 1 year. On Friday, their home was subject to a massive evacuation and crime scene where multiple agencies began trying to find answers to a violent shootout that took place that same afternoon. That shooting taking the life of one Fargo police officer and critically injuring 3 others, including a bystander.
Suspect 37-year-old Muhammad Barakat attacked our officers, firing multiple rounds, striking 3 of them.
What was your reaction to hearing his name and realizing that was him just right next to you?
It's scary. I see, that's what Daniel and I were talking about. It was like, you know, you remember the McVeigh bombing, you remember all these stuff, and Pulse nightclub, then it makes you wonder.
That complex now a quiet scene with residents back inside attempting to continue their normal life. However, the gunman's name still remains on the tenant address list and still leaves many asking questions.
Your home's supposed to be your castle, your place of security.
This footage taken right outside Gosney's balcony, where you can see a Fargo Fire Department vehicle with its aerial fully extended to the balcony next door. This has Gosney wondering what was truly taking place inside that unit.
When the whole situation happened, the cops weren't really forthcoming on anything. In fact, it was just evacuate. But then it was like, no, it's not serious enough. So it was like they weren't telling. And you know, I actually asked the first officer, I said, is this a bomb threat?
With the investigation still ongoing, Gosney and Ringwelski both are now trying to remember their brief encounters with the individual.
Once in the elevator, so we were both going down to the cars.
And what was that exchange like? Did he say anything?
He was just quiet. He said, I'm one in the elevator. I said on the other.
Never talked, never said a word.
As our interview was ending, we asked if they could show us the apartment where Barakat lived, only to see it still being actively investigated.
You never know who your neighbors are. Simple. Because what's left to say?
Now, there's still a very small amount of information that has been released on Barakat so far. We're still awaiting a photograph of what he looked like, as well as many other details. As soon as we receive any of those details, we will be sure to keep you up.